Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Star Trek New Worlds. My name is Tony, and thank you for joining us here live on Saturday at 11 o'clock. Ooh, yeah. If you're catching us on the replay, thank you for taking the time. And let's just dive right in. What an exciting turn it has been. It's been right up to the wire until this very early morning that I got the latest update. And let me give you the latest updates from our galactic news. Is that a monster in your backyard? Let me try that again. Is that a monster in your backfield, or are you just happy to see me? Long-range scans have picked up a mysterious visitor in northern Lyran space. While no details are available, scientists have confirmed that it is not any known ship. Monsters are suspected. Dinos versus birds, survival of the fittest. Gorn explorers have discovered the Paravian world of glory. Sources say that a botched first contact results in an angry Paravian fleet chasing the Gorn away, phasers blasting. The Gorn diplomatic corps have assured reporters that this was a temporary setback and that they are sure relations will be normalized soon. No comment was available from Glory. So far, the bird is the only word. Whose world is it anyway? 3 planets have been handed over from the ISC to the Riemann Empire. 2 of the original Hydrant homeworlds, Hydrax Port and Hydrant, plus the ISC world of Positron. Speculation is rampant as to why these worlds changed hands. Some believe the Riemanns are providing humanitarian assistance to populations long mistreated by the ISC. Alpha Dogs, there are murmurings of increased tensions along the Klingon-Carnival border. Clashes between merchant vessels are on the rise, and some believe that this is only a matter of time before the two governments begin to send warships to escalate this powder keg. Stay tuned for further information as our deep cover investigators bring you the latest from the front lines. Disputed zone is disputed once again. A large swath of territory in occupied Hydrant space has been marked as officially disputed. For several years, Just as it was beginning to look like this space would be annexed fully by the ISC, Hydran raiding forces, risking life and tentacle, have managed to cut this zone in half, forcing the ISC to reduce their official claims to the territory immediately surrounding Hydrax. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the most up-to-date highlights brought to you by our wonderful GM, Daniel. But if you are listening to that and thinking, good God, Tony, what in the world are you talking about? Let me tell you, here at Star Trek New Worlds, we are bringing to you live over Facebook Live, Twitch, and of course, YouTube, the dramatic gameplay of our campaign. New World's campaign is a turn-based strategy game that we play using the Federation and Empire rule set as published by the Amarillo Design Bureau, and of course, share it to you live on those platforms. But boom! Ladies and gentlemen, donation from the Juggernaut. I'm going to talk about the coffee in just a second, but let me take a swig. In celebration. Where was I? Yes, Amarillo Design Bureau. We're playing the game that is published by them, and of course, bringing it to you live using the wonderful world of Vassal, which is what populates the map. Before I show you the map, let me just quickly, that little QR code there in the middle of the map, if you take your phone and you swipe it up, then you can send us a little juicy piece of caffeination that keeps us peppy and excited here, motivated, and providing you the content that you want to do. If the QR code isn't your style, then you can check out that link at coffee.com/New Worlds. And if Patreon is more your style, then you can head over there and check out the various tiers that we have to be able to join us, support us, and be part of our community. Speaking of our community, thank you, Hoodwink. You are our latest subscriber. Thank you very much for helping us on our journey to 500. Here on YouTube, we are on a quest to get to 500 subscribers so that we can unlock key features within YouTube. At 500, we get the community tab, which is just another way to be able to share new content and be able to reach out and connect with you in different ways. So thank you, Hoodwink, for being part of our community and helping us get there one step at a time. If you are enjoying or think you might like things all turn-based strategy, sci-fi, and of course Star Trek, then please consider joining the channel to stay updated on the latest and greatest as to what's going on here, where we have tutorials, we have, of course, these live streams, and much, much more as we sort of barrel on into the future here. So let's check into the community of wonderful supporters and players that we have. So let me just dive in. Eugene is, I affectionately refer to as our public affairs officer, who I swear does better promo than I do for this channel. It's awesome. Eugene, this week's wait nearly over. Tea brewing, popcorn popping, extra napkins for messy fingers dripping with butter. Monsters, question mark. When will everyone realize that the true enemy is the Juggy? In memory of the departed Carney ship, every empire should send a frigate on a similar mission to find the Juggy borders. And someone pay the Orions to check out that stable warp signature. Finally. Thank you, Eugene. I totally agree. We'll get into the map and what's going on there in a moment. But let's say hi to Bill. Oh, yeah. Gord in the house. Jim Howard. Hydrans are lurking. Lurk, 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 says Bill. Paul is up and at him. Hello, Jim. Paul is here. Hey, Paul. And hello, Hydrant scum. Daniel, of course, our GM. Pew pew. Chuck is in the house. Lord Lawless, the notorious LL, is here. Afternoon, space gentlemen, and also hydrants. Who else we got here? We got Dell. Dell is lurking. And, John 10 broke. Hello, all. Finally able to catch the live stream. Welcome, John, to the live stream. Speaking of which, we are now in double digits. Thank you for getting us there at 13. Lucky number 13. Let's see if we can share the news, share the wealth, and get us to 20 at some point before the end of the month. Well, I don't know if we'll get to the end of the month, but that's our next milestone. Can we get it to 20 folks live? I don't know. I need your help to be able to help do that. So let's tell two friends, spread the word, and let's see if we can get some folks joining us here Saturday, 11 o'clock Pacific time, to be able to catch the latest and greatest on what's going on here at Star Trek New Worlds. With that said, I feel like I will apologize as we go through this. The allergies are tickling my nose. I don't know what it is about this season or what's going on these days, but man, even with allergy meds, my nose keeps tickling. I may have to step out for 2 seconds at some point to be able to blow my nose or something like that. We'll see how that goes. But, without further ado, let's jump into the map that you all want to see. Here we go. Zoom into the map. Incidentally, if you are watching what's going on and you like what you see, then please feel free to, above my head, there is that link. And of course, let me know in the comments what it is that you want to see or know more about what's going on the map. But let's start off with the piece of the headline that caught me sort of off guard the most, which, as you heard, was that tensions are rising along the Klingon border between the Klingons and the Carnival. Who is the alpha dog? Well, I'm not sure what... to quote the vernacular of today, fake news. I don't know what's going on there, but let's dive in so you can see with your own eyes what's going on. All right. So let's look at the Carnival border and what's going on with the Klingons. Oh, I should say, before I jump into that, let me do what I keep forgetting to do every week. Let's get the EP and the fleet cap totals so we can see where everybody is in the game. Here we go. All right, let's see if I can zoom that out. There we go. All right, so we're starting with the money, honey. Where is everyone sitting when it comes to how much money they're making in the game? Well, we have the Carnival, speaking of, at 44. That's pretty steady for them. We haven't seen them really increase or expand their financial haul. They're staying steady in the middle of the pack. The Federation now at 45.5. Definitely climbing up the ladder when it comes to their finances. The Gorn at 46. Ooh. Now there's an interesting caveat there. They have 46 on the books, but they can only access 45. We'll talk about that in a moment. The Hydrons at 11. Their numbers keep dropping, understandably, as the Riemann and ISC tidal wave continues to flood across the former lush green space of the Hydrons. The ISC, speaking of, are at 45.5. The Klingons are at an even 50. The Lyrans at 40.5. Paravians, well, that's the minor faction there and there. My apologies. Riemans, now the top dog at 50.5. Ba-boom! Not only are they one of the biggest militaries, they now have the largest economy. And while at war, that's a lot of income. Goodness gracious. The Romulans at 42, 420. Oh my goodness, what are they doing in their time off? And the Tholians at 49.5. So, as you can see, the top of the tier is floating around 50 at 50.5, 50 and 49.5 respectively. Then we've got that tier of folks that are hovering around the mid 40s, 46, 45.5, 44. And then there's another cadre of folks that are sort of at the lower end of that spectrum, hovering around the low 40s, 42, 40.5, and so on. So, what does that do as far as translating into ships, fleets, offensive firepower? Well, excuse me, the Carnival continue to grow the strength of their fleet at 92 ships. Oh my goodness, they got a lot of stuff flying through the space, with a total attack factor of 229 to a defense of 390. Wow. The Federation are steadily climbing at 6060. They have at 150 attack, 237 defense. The Gorn, I want to say 51 is an increase from last week. You'll have to check the beginnings of last week's live stream to be sure, but 51 ship equivalents at 108 to 11. I want to say that's just past them cracking, of course, 100. But I think they cracked 100 last week, but they were only at 50. So they're steadily, slowly but surely, increasing the number of ships that they have. The Hydrons at 66, 151, 258, respectively. The ISC, also at 92 ship equivalents. Interesting to look at the difference here. Carnivons with 92, the ISC with 92, but look at the difference in attack and defense factors. Carnivons have 229, the ISC 291. The defense factors for the Carnival, 390, and the defense for the ISC 415. So obviously defense factors are much closer, but look at that offensive firepower. The ISC really are bringing the heat. Klingons at a total of 62 ship equivalents at 156 to 251. The Lyrans, I should say, are at 56. Don't confuse my kitty cats. Lyrans are at 56 ship equivalents at 134, 263, respectively. So very interesting to note that they are still below that 150 number, but creeping closer to the total of 60 ship equivalents. The Remans, oh my God, the only faction with triple-digit ship equivalents. They are 126. That is... Jesus, that's like a full third or 30% ahead of everybody else. Like the largest fleet is 92 and they're at 126. That is 34 ships over and above their closest rivals. So that's quite interesting. So the Remans have 126 ships. They have a total attack factor of 375. Wow. That is almost 100 more. It's 80 more than the ISC. That's crazy. And of course, 492 in defense factor. So by far the Remans are the biggest, baddest fleet in the game. Wow. The Romulans at less than half of the Reman fleet count. To be fair, we're all around that number. The Romulans at 57 ship equivalents at 154, 250. And let's round out with the Tholians at 56 ship equivalents, 81 attack, 219 defense. Wow. Okay. Well, that's interesting. I'm going to take a little sip. Oh, speaking of coffee, let me just switch over here. So the reason why I've got a Starbucks coffee here, I ran out of coffee on Friday and didn't have a chance to go out and grab some actual coffee beans before the start here on Saturday. So I had to race out to Starbucks to grab a coffee this morning. Picked up some beans on the way, but even though it's a venti, just to let you know how addicted I am to caffeine, or the sweet elixir we know as coffee. This is just not enough. I'm about to dry this cup off, and it's still not enough. I need more. Give it to me. All right. Still some dregs left in that, but let's get back to the map. All right. So, like we were saying, the border region with the Carnival, qu'est-ce qui arrive, mes amis? All right. So, what's going on here? We can see from the Carnival side. Let's start with the Carnival side, and then we'll talk about the Klingon side. So, first reserve and everything that's going on in this sort of top corner here, we know what's going on there. That's all exploration and sort of base building and infrastructure. There is a convoy here that's providing extended supply to first reserve and this exploration freighter. We have exploration ships working to sort of continue to explore this area. We know that there's a base being built here. There's a base being built here, has been built there. And this is all in support of the free transit zone, which was something that was previously agreed to when it came to the Hydrans, Carnival Alliance, and the Klingons. As we scroll down along here, we can see there's Wolfpack 1 and Coyote Band 1. Now, these two fleets have been relatively static along the border. They have, over time, increased ever so slightly. Not so much with Wolfpack, as you can see here. I'll just put that right there. You can see that it's got a handful or a trio of frigates and destroyers, respectively, a drone bombardment destroyer and cruiser also. So that hasn't changed. But what had changed in the past, although not so much recently, is the Coyote Band 1. So Coyote Band 1 is the fleet that's hovering over here over this YDK, and we have 7 frigates, a prime team, drone bombardment destroyer, light cruiser, couple drone bombardment cruisers. Yep, play nice. There we are. Oh, actually, sorry. 1 drone bombardment cruiser, 2 YCAs, and a YDN. So what's going on there? Well, we have a big command ship, obviously, to be able to command the full breadth of that fleet, and just, support ships. Why are they doing that? Well, and of course, they've got this little frigate just kind of floating here on this base. So why are they doing that? Why are they putting that much firepower, especially with everything that's going on their northern border? Why are they putting it there? Well, as has been going on back and forth between us, And as you know, if you've been following this game for any length of time, many years ago, though not so long ago, the Carnivons jumped on the Klingons while the Klingons were engaged in a war with the Romulans. So they, even though we were at peace and had a great, at the time, believed relationship, they jumped us from behind and stuck us in the back and took some territory. Now, to be fair, they could have gone a lot further potentially, and they chose not to. But nonetheless, it was sort of a backstabby moment. So since that, the Klingons have, positioned fleets in the area to prevent that same kind of thing from happening. Here's one. So this is, I'll put that right there so it's easier to see. This is Joint Task Force Bravo sitting here on a YB. So we have a command cruiser. So that's the top command platform I have, as opposed to a dreadnought, which they have on their side. I can command 9 ships plus itself, so 10 total ships versus the 10 command factor of a dreadnought plus 1. So I can control a total of 10 ships in a fleet. He can control a total of 11. You can see here there's also a W era cruiser there as well. That's the D3. And then we have a bunch of Y-era destroyers and frigates. So total number of destroyers here is 11, and total number of frigates, although there's a cripple there as well, is 8. So 7 fully functional, 1 crippled frigate. So it's not nothing, but it's enough to be able to be definitely a road stop or a door stop. There we are, for anybody that's trying to come through the back door. So that's why that's been there. And of course, since our relationship has gotten better, the Carnivon have positioned ships sort of in and around the border. As part of our treaty, we had a very clear sort of thing about, and we mapped out exactly, no YDKs along the border, only YBSs, no ships above cruisers, or no ships above a destroyer or frigate status along the border. Now, Technically, if we look at Wolfpack is violating that because they have a drone bombardment cruiser. Now, a drone bombardment cruiser is what's referred to as a size class 3 ship. And the rules clearly state in our agreement, nothing above size class 4, which is destroyers and frigates. Why do you do that? Why do you decide only frigates and destroyers versus something bigger? Because of the command factor. I just talked about the D4C versus the dreadnought that's 2 hexes back. The reason why we don't want cruisers or something like that along the border is because they can control and command more ships in a battle line, which means that if you only have destroyers and frigates on that first hex along the border, they're essentially a defensive force. They can't reach out and attack very effectively because they can't control large numbers of ships in any particular battle round. So it's less likely that they are going to be used in an attack versus a defense. So theoretically, the Carnivons are in violation of our agreement based on the fact that they have a cruiser, a YCB, which has a command factor of more than a destroyer or frigate. So it's a size class 3 ship. That's technically in violation of our agreement. However, let's since we're talking about things that might be violations of our agreement, Tony, since I take away the ships here for a second, what's going on here? Like, what's with all these bases? Well, let me describe to you not only what's being put in place, but what the intention is. So you can see here, of course, that we've got a YDK, and there's a YDK here. As part of our treaty, there will be no YDKs along the initial 1 hex border. The only exception to that, and was a specific carve-out in our peace treaty, was Grey Peak here. Now, Grey Peak is a planet that had been sort of tussled over, not necessarily between the Carnivon and the Klingons, but there had been sort of like a religious revolt. It was a random event that occurred in the campaign. And so as part of it, we agreed that a YDK could be placed here on this planet. Okay, so the intention or the plan is, of course, the base at this point is now built, and there's going to be a YDK upgrade that's going to go in there. But no other, and so YDKs can exist 2 hexes back. So according to our treaty, this base, which is a YBS, and this the YBS in Mike 40, and November 41, those both could be upgraded to YBSs, still within the spirit of our agreement. As you can see, I'm building a base here, and as has been the case with the Carnival and the Klingons, we engage in open communication frequently so that we can sort of be up to speed on what the other person's thinking and doing. And I will share that with you here now. So when it comes to the Klingons, you notice all this gray stuff on the right? Well, that's affectionately referred to our backyard, or part of it, in the sense of it's the area between sort of homeworld and the edge of the map, arguably. And so this is all area that that from the Klingon side looking to explore. Obviously, unexplored hexes provide opportunity to find planets, resources, various other things, and that's what's going on here. Also in the context that, if you'll notice on the Carnival side, it's very well explored, so we're going to explore along here and put in bases to facilitate exploration. And of course, you know, as you've seen with the Klingons, it's a little ad hoc, but generally speaking, building bases every 2 hexes so that they can be mutually supportive when it comes to attack and things like that. Now, of course, you'll notice there's a little bit of a hiccup here along the border here. That's due to the conflict and sort of how bases were built and yada, yada, yada. But as a general guiding strategy and principle, every 2 hexes, that's the strategy. So that's what's going on here. So to recap, continue to explore and build bases every 2 hexes along the border here. Again, YBSs or base stations. Difference being the YDKs are Y-era space docks or Y-era space star bases, basically. And the YBSs are Y-era base stations. Make sense? And then so YBSs along the border, YDK specifically on Grey Peak, and as sort of an added bonus insight, this free trade or free transit zone has been created specifically with the intent of being able to allow the Klingons to be able to build bases, have supply, and to be able to sort of get into the fight up here. Now, there had been a number of reasons why that was the case. If you've been following the past couple of live streams, you will know that there was a period or an area of space here that had been sort of handed over to the Klingons, including this resource in the upper corner, to be able to help facilitate, I think, I mean, who knows the minds of the Hydrants? But the Hydrants had done it in order to be able to get the Klingons involved in the conflict and so on. The problem was we don't have supply and logistical support to get to that space, so there's no way we can effectively do anything. And so, as a result, this resource was handed over to the Remans in exchange for not going to war, and away we go. However, the free transit zone was created so as to be able to, 1, have access to that space, and 2, from a greater strategic perspective, allow access to be able to get involved in conflicts that were in and around this area. Full transparency on my side, the reason why I wanted to do that was because, I mean, regardless of whether the Remans and or the ISC come knocking on a Klingon door, as I have spoken about quite frequently, the Tholians are a big issue, or at least a known concern. And this little November wormhole is where they were popping through. And if you'll notice, the free transit zone leads right to that wormhole. The rest I will leave up to you. But nonetheless, there you are. So free transit zone, again, the intent and the purpose there is to be able to allow Klingons access to be able to do stuff up north. And so the plan is to build bases, again, as per the strategy, every 2 hexes, mutually supportive and so on, and sort of get up in that direction. So as you can see, Grey Peak is going to finish what it's doing, and then there'll be other stuff that goes up that way, and away we go. That's the plan, that's the intent, and that's what's going on. So that's what's going along the border. Let me bring the ships back here so you can see what's going on. So that is what is going on along the Klingon and Carnival border. As per the news update, I don't see any rising tensions or issues. However, the GM has insight, has back channel communications, and has full visibility on everything that's going on. So maybe from the Klingon side, I should be concerned that maybe there's something going on the Carnival side. Maybe. I would think the Carnivons have their hands full. Why would they want to pick a fight with the Klingons? It seems odd to me. It seems illogical. Nonetheless, as per the Carnival-Klingon relationship, open and transparent communication, if the Carnival are watching, and I know you are at some point, expect an email from me or some communications to say, qu'est-ce que F, what is going on, and let's chat. So anyways, we'll do that. We'll figure that out. Since I'm sort of on the Klingon side of the border here, why don't I just finish off rounding out what's going on the Klingon side? You can see that a number of ships here have coalesced on the wormhole. So why is that? Well, there's a YDK there, so it's a repair facility. And if you remember, our tussle with the Juggernauts had us a little crippled, a little beat up. So if we look at Joint Task Force Alpha, you will see Joint Task Force Alpha being the collection of ships that is on this hex. You will see and notice there is quite a collection of crippled ships, and they're all crippled ships allocated for repair. D4C, D4, and a number of F4s, total of 7 there. So yeah, all those ships are there to facilitate and help with the repair. And then, of course, Joint Task Force Gamma. Let me just pull those guys up so you can see them. Oh, goodness gracious. A little slippage when it came to connecting. There, that's a little bit prettier. All right. So you can see here the D4C, which is the remaining brain start working. That is the last remaining command cruiser. My goodness. Like I said, more caffeine, please. And of course, the F4s that are there. So there's 6 there, and then there's a remaining 4. Yeah, so a total of 10 F4s and a D4C. So a battle force, nonetheless. Certainly something that could be used to, help defend and all that kind of stuff. But that's where that is. Interesting to note, I'm going to share with you a little piece of narrative here in a moment around that battle with the Juggernauts. But to round out the Juggernaut story, the Juggernaut conflict had occurred here in Juliet 48. And they, knowing that the Juggernauts have speed 6 versus my speed 4, because they're GW ships and I'm Y era ships, that's like a 2 tech era difference, they were able to, and they go first, from initiative perspective, they ran away from me and I wasn't able to catch them. So the cruiser and the light cruiser that were remaining ran away and got away, and I wasn't able to follow them up. So that's how that went. Other than that, nothing too exciting. There is a colony ship, however, interesting, that has been discovered over here. Luckily, there is a tug, which is stationed here at Kilo 49. We'll go pick that up and bring it over to an appropriate resource. For those of you who don't know, a colony ship is a random event that can occur, and it is basically a feature that allows you to put it on top of a resource and turn that resource into a colony. What's the advantage of that? 1, colonies provide supply in this game, so that's good. And 2, colonies can grow. Resources don't grow. Over time, they will just stay static. They will just be the 1 EP that they are, and that's it. In fact, there may even be a random event where the resource disappears. The vein of ore runs dry, kind of thing. But a colony can grow. And over time, every 10 years or so, or 10 turns, I believe, 10 turns, there is the potential for the colony to grow. And so the percentage chance of it growing has a direct relation with the proximity to the homeworld. So let me take away ships real quick. Actually, yeah, I'll take away ships real quick so you can see where all the resources are. So looking at what we got here, we can see this is the homeworld with the big star. And where do you think, knowing that the colony ship is down here, where do you think I should put that wonderful, amazing colony ship? Now, I should let you know that the distance, the optimal distance, is within 3 hexes. So it could be this resource, or that resource, but any one of those 3 could result in our ideal situation. Interesting to note, if I put it here on the wormhole, that might make it a juicy target for the Federation should they ever decide to come through that wormhole. Who knows? We'll see what happens, but nonetheless, those are my 3 options that are within 3 hexes of the home system, and we'll see how that goes. Let me bring back the bases and the ships. And as a quick round off, you can see that there is continued exploration happening in the top corner, and that is that. Let me jump into the chat real quick. The SS Botany Bay by chance. Ooh. Okay, let's check in with. Oh my goodness! Look at all this chitter chatter. Okay. All right, I'm catching up here, and I'm going to go through the chat and see what's going on. Lord Lawless, shouldn't those hydrant ships be on fire? Okay, so let's pick up where we left. Afternoon space, gentlemen, and also hydrants. That's what Lord Lawless said when he joined the live stream. Chuck saying, shouldn't those hydrant ships be on fire? Responds Jim. And of course, Lord Lawless, nothing major happened this turn, right? Big smiley face. Lordy, the notorious LL. That's right. Who says, by the way, Lord Lawless, ship models and animations are great. You're talking about the intro to the live stream. That's all Paul, ladies and gentlemen. Paul is our CGI artist. He is amazing. He's awesome. And would love to be able to sort of talk about what we'll do next. Do you have any ideas? What do you want to see in the animations component? We know that Paul's working on some different sort of features, tech, and or sort of things that he can do in Blender or the animation tool that he's using. So we'll see. We'll see. Dell, nothing to see here. Could it be a glory hole for the Gorns? Ooh, very nice. John Tenbroke, hey, finally joining the live stream. Of course, yeah, we caught that. I apologize for getting so far back in the chat. So, John, again, welcome. George Duffy is in the house, ladies and gentlemen. Hey. We've got Eugene. Future Starbucks sponsorship? ? Doesn't hurt to ask. Well, hey, if you have any contact, connection, or communication with anybody around coffee, then please let me know. Of course, being a military veteran, this is a war game. Somebody in the space that might have a military background and does coffee, I can think of a couple. If those coffee folks are out there and would like to send a porcelain mug and or a limitless coffee supply, then please feel free to do so. I love myself a good cup of joe, and of course, coffee makes the Navy go, being an ex-Navy guy. So anyways, back into the chat. But yes, coffee sponsorship, that would be awesome. Dell, unfake news. See drone bombardment. Judas. Gonna get ya. Be careful, Dell. Wow, that was a string of conscious thought. I'm not sure what all that is to connect, but you're right. Fake news. Boom, boom, boom. Eugene, Tony, you forgot the legendary E1 captain guarding the gate at the Carney border. How could I possibly? You are absolutely correct, 150%. I will go back to the map right now and correct that problem. Ladies and gentlemen, the E1, the solitary E1, the guardian at the gate, you might say, standing vigilant right there on that YBS. He and his fearless crew are truly the intimidating force holding back the wave of Carnival aggression. The predators that are at the ring of our firelight, lurking in the dark, glowing eyes staring at us from the shadows. The E1 captain and his dauntless crew are certainly the brave souls that are holding back the onslaught of the darkness. I salute you. Yes. So that our E1 captain is good to go. Incidentally, for all those military folks out there, I have seen some atrocious salutes in my time, and I'm not sure if you're depending on your vintage, if you're a palm out, a palm down, or crisp. What do you want to call that? Crisp on the side. Curious if you've got any military background, share with me your salute stories in the chat. Would love to hear. Chuck, dirty hydrants. Oh, let me get back to this. Dirty hydrants. Where are we here? Trying to drag everyone else down with them. Oh, John Tenbroke says, is the colony ship named the SS Botany Bay by any chance? Well, I don't know. I haven't checked it out yet, but Daniel, our GM, can certainly share with us the stories, because if we were to discover a collection of genetically engineered Klingons, that would tie in exactly with the background that we've talked about for the Klingons in this game. As you may know, inspired by the Warhammer 40k Alpha Legion, Legion 20 in the Alpha 40k pre-Horus Heresy universe, that is the inspiration for what we do. In the Cataclysm that was part of the origin story of the Klingons in this game, there was a breakdown of basically these gene cults that were creating these niche genetic family trees that were quite siloed in their thinking and beliefs and caused conflict and dramatic war. There was AI that was supporting and enabling the Empire, which decided to, in a Cyberdyne kind of moment, attack and take out the Klingon Empire after the gene cult wars. And so a solitary AI that was motivated and inspired to be able to support and perpetuate the Klingon species, genetically engineered 3 sons, although we only know of one, the Alpha, genetically engineered 3 sons to be able to lead this faction out of the darkness, out of the chaos of the apocalypse, and take back to the stars. And that's the sort of the beginnings of the origin story there. So genetically engineered or genetically tampered with Klingons is certainly the backstory and fits quite nicely in the narrative of the Klingon Empire. In fact, when you look at our map, the first 2 colonies we discovered, a Carnival and Lyran planet, respectively, were originally framed in the context of being genetically engineered Klingon colonies that had gone down a specific bespoke path to develop canine-type features and or feline-type features, very much akin to and in the spirit of the legions of Warhammer 40k, like, for example, the Space Wolves with the Felix as the... Oh, my God. It's the Felix Helix? If you are Warhammer 40k, you're probably shaking your fist at me right now. But it's the canine, it's the genetic code of the Space Wolves that gives them those wolf-like characteristics and makes them specifically resilient to some of the baddies in that universe. But nonetheless, that's sort of the background there. So let's get back to the chit-chat. So SS Botany Bay, genetically engineered super Klingons, wouldn't be the first time. Hey, Mr. Lyran. Eugene, put the colony ship on the wormhole resource and fill it with PGBs and dare the feds to come through. That's not a terrible idea. Not a terrible idea. Interesting. However, colonies, the size of the colony, like colony developing minor planet, all those things, those size planets come with a limit to how many PGBs you can put on there. But you are right. If I put a colony there, I can put planetary ground bases there, and it makes it a harder target. So that's not a terrible idea. That's a very sound strategy. Daniel, Paul animations rock. Yes, they do. John, former U.S. Marine here, and our salutes are crisp like razor blades. That's right. Oh, I could go down a little bit of a rabbit hole as to why this happens versus this happens versus this. There's a little bit of a story there, at least depending on your military culture. Yeah. So U.S. Marine, John Tenbrook. So for all those fellow U.S., well, not U.S., I'm not U.S., but for all those military veterans out there, no matter your national heritage, I salute your service and thank you for it. I would say we're all part of a brotherhood or a family of folks that have a certain sort of special connection. So thank you very much for being here, for what you've done, and let's have fun. All right. So Chuck says, Paul, do you do commissions, and do you do other? I think that's supposed to be genres. Yeah, do we do fantasy or other things like that? I don't know. Very interesting to ask. All right, let's get back to the map. And since we are talking about Carnivals and Klingons, and goodness gracious, look at that, we're already 45 minutes into this. Let's go into the Carnivals and talk about some of the conflict that is going on along the border. All right, so we talked about the border with the Klingons. We don't need to recap that, but let's talk about some of the other things that are going on. We can see that there is, at the very bottom of the map, this survey cruiser that is doing its thing. Continuing to explore. You will notice that there's a YBS here, so I don't know what the supply range is of the Carnivons currently. 3 or 4. I'm going to guess 4 at this point. Who knows? But either way, if it is, based on what I'm seeing here in the northern section, I'm going to say 3 because the convoy, the Y convoy here, is providing extended supply very obviously to the First Reserve. And based on its location, it would suggest perhaps a 3 hex supply range. Who knows? We'll see. Seeing as they haven't moved it at all. So yeah, we'll have to see. But regardless, we have the YSR in the bottom corner here doing exploration. We have a frigate guarding the former Borak planet that was over here in the corner. We've got a YFF just off the map that you can't quite see. Let me just slide this over. You can maybe see him just over there. Not really doing anything, but just happens to be sitting on a YBS, perhaps just as a way to prevent bad things from happening to that YBS. We've got a diplomat and a tug here on top of this planet. It looks like they're trying to improve the planetary attitude. It is a minor planet, so if it was a H+ or happy, then they'll get a 0.5 EP boost there, so that would be good. And then what do we see on the homeworld? On the homeworld here, oh goodness, behave please. There we go. So you can't see the total stack there, but you've got a tug. You got 2 tugs, actually. There are 2 tugs, a prime team, a small exploration freighter, which is just on the edge of what you can see on the map there, a YFF, a YCL, an Orion YLR, which had been repaired and is now a sort of an owned ship by the Carnivon, and of course 2 prime teams. So there's a total of 3 prime teams in that hex, 2 tugs, a light cruiser, a frigate, and an exploration, small exploration freighter. I'm not sure if, I don't know. There's also an R&D team. So I'm going to assume that based on the what I'm seeing, that the Carnivons are conducting R&D research on their wormhole and are driving that tech forward. I don't know what their current status is on wormhole tech and where that's going, but I would expect that they're probably driving that tech so that they can reach out and touch someone through a wormhole, seeing as they have 2 of them. So very interesting to see. What else we got near the border here? Well, of course, we've got Den Fleet sitting on top of that Lyran wormhole that goes into Lyran space, that is. So let's take a look at the Carnival Den Fleet real quick. No big change, I would think, here. So we've got a Dreadnought command cruiser, 2 ICAs, a drone bombardment destroyer, normal destroyer, 2 frigates, 2 crippled frigates, and a YCL and a couple of prime teams. So I don't know if the crippled frigates are the result of some kind of attack. I'm not sure. It wouldn't quite make sense. Excuse me. To me, but in the sense that I can't remember if there were crippled ships there before, but I don't see where they would have been attacked from anytime recently. If we look over on the new Hydran capital, we can see we can see a YBS, a tug, crippled Vols, 2 of them, a crippled YCA. And this is a mix of units. So from the Carnivon side, we have a YDK, a crippled CA, and a commercial convoy. From the Hydran side, we see a YBS, prime team, a tug, and 2 crippled Vols. So not a lot there, but 2 bases, and certainly enough to be able to sort of make a go of it if a small group of ships decided to come say hi. Around them, we have, of course, there's a YBS over here with a convoy, not a commercial convoy, just a normal convoy, and with a couple of frigates. We have a number of Carnivon frigates and a tug sitting here on top of this YBS with a crippled YDD, and this interesting collection of fleets. So we've got Home Fleet and Fox Skulk 1. So it's kind of hard to talk about the Carnivons without talking about the Hydrans, so let's start to bring in the Hydrans here a little bit. Carnivon Home Fleet is not small, that's for sure. And let's go Fox Skulk 1 just to make sure we're all looking at the right things. Okay. Let's put this down here. Maybe it'll be a little bit easier to sort out. Okay. So Fox Skulk 1 obviously is the first one up here. And interesting. So Fox Skulk 1 has a dreadnought. So both of these fleets, both Home and Fox Skulk 1, are very similar. Both have a dreadnought and a command cruiser, so a 1-2 command ships. The Fox Skulk 1, which is the one on top, right here. Fox Skulk 1 has a prime team with two YCAs, 4 drone bombardment cruisers, 2 drone bombardment destroyers, and 4 frigates. The Home fleet, which is the one below, has a dreadnought, a command cruiser, 2 drone bombardment cruisers, 2 YCAs, 2 drone bombardment destroyers, 2 destroyers, and 5 frigates, along with a couple prime teams. So interesting collection of ships here. Yeah, very, very interesting. But of course, they're not alone. They've got Hydran ships with them. So let's talk about the Hydran ships that are there. And because they are allied, it allows them to work together. So if there's a fleet battle, for example, or battle in that hex, then they'll be able to support each other. So Iron Fleet, I'm assuming metal. There we are. So Iron Fleet, we'll put that up here. Iron Fleet is with Fox Skulk 1. So these two folks. So this is Iron Fleet is 2 YCCs, a DD, and how many? 7 Vols. So not a small number of ships up here in this corner. And then down below here, we've got 2 Vols, a YCC, and the Hydran Home Fleet. Hydran Home Fleet. Whoa, hello. I'm going to put this right here just so it's easier to see. We've got a DN and their mass of YCCs, which is 7 of them. So without a doubt, this is the concentration of Hydran forces and really the hardest target that they have. So a whole bunch of these YCCs along with 5 Vols and a crippled Vol, and of course 2 prime teams. So between that, the base, and all the ships, I don't really see there being I don't see there being a rational reason why, if I'm the ISC, I attack this target. Unless it's a critical battle and you want to eliminate their ships and you have the firepower to win. But this just seems like a battle. Why would you fight this battle right now? Like there's easier battles on this board, on this map to fight. So very interesting. So those are 2 interesting things. Also interesting to note, because this is a base, it has extended reaction range. So 2 hexes out, it can respond. So it could have potentially supported any of the ships here, could have supported Iron or Fox Skulk 1 if that hex had been attacked. Interesting. To round out the Carnivons, we've still got their base over here with a couple frigate escorts. We've got a crippled Hydran cruiser there, command cruiser as well. And then up here, there's the Hydran base with the Carnivon YDD sitting there. Of course, with lots of not-so-friendly folks around them. Convoy with a YFF. And now let's fully transit into the Hydrans. We can see on the edge, let's get rid of these guys. On the edge of this space, we've got a Tug and a Vol. It would seem as though they're providing extended supply, 1, 2, 3, 4, to Xenon Fleet. Now, Xenon Fleet and Iridium and Tungsten, these are all exploration fleets. So these are all fleets that are contributing to the exploration. For example, trying to blow out this fog of war. Again, going back to that free transit zone, getting Klingons up there and to be able to participate in the battle. So that's all still part of that strategy. And then, of course, we got First Fleet and Second Fleet over here. Let's just take a quick look. Itchy nose, I apologize. Allergies, crazy. Hydran. Here we are. So we've got First and Hydran Second. Where are you? Okay. So I'm going to put Second on top because Second is the top one here. So we got Second Fleet floating around there with a Dreadnought, a prime team, and a couple of escort frigates. First is sitting on top of a base with a Tug, and it is also a Dreadnought with a couple of escorts, in this case, a destroyer and a frigate, respectively. So not not nothing, but, you know, just something to be able to sit there and do stuff. Interesting to note. Oh. Okay, so we'll take this moment and sort of go into the disputed zone hex. So I will say the disputed hex mechanics have been something that have not been used a lot prior to this campaign, and the players and the GM and everybody involved didn't create this mechanic, and so understanding and employing it has been a work in progress, shall we say. So let's look at a couple things. The mechanic, fundamentally, we can go back to, for those of us who are players in the GM, we can go back and check the references that we have for the bespoke rules on this. But fundamentally, the idea is you establish, as the person creating the disputed hexes, you establish, here, I'll go here, you establish the disputed hex zone. So you're laying claim to that area. And over the next 6 turns, you need to maintain control of that area. You lose control of that area when a ship ends its turn in that hex. What's critical to understand about that is, the ship ending its turn in the hex. It doesn't apply the reaction range around it. It's just that hex. However, because the disputed zone has to be a contiguous or a continuous area, like all connected, then if the controlled hex cuts off a piece of the rest of the disputed zone, you lose that disputed zone, or you kind of have to prioritize. So that's how that works. Now, so when you drop a unit in a spot, it'll disrupt that particular hex. So let's go back to the map real quick. So I know already that this is a fun hot mess, but let's just look at what we've got here. So we know that the disputed hex area was sort of in and around this zone. We can see that there's 2 ships here. 2 interesting things to note about these 2 ships. I don't believe, because Second Fleet didn't have a tug, and this one doesn't have a tug. So if you look at, and I'll just pull up the supply menu, it won't be I'm hoping it'll be accurate, but let's just pull up Hydrogen Supply. And just to make sure I've got it set, let's set it to 4. So this doesn't include any convoys or tugs that would provide extended supply. This is only supply nodes, like planets and bases and things. But you can fundamentally see here that there is a lack of supply to these units. There's also no tugs or anything in this hex or in these hexes that would provide extended supply. 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's nothing in this 4 hex range that could provide these guys with supply. So these 2 ships are out of supply. So even if you were using the philosophical approach, which isn't according to the mechanic, that these 2 vols would also disrupt hexes that are adjacent to them, because when we're talking about supply, that can be the case, providing supply through a hex, then these 2 ships are out of supply. When you're out of supply, you don't have reaction. So that's something to think about. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's just these 2 ships we're talking about when it comes to supply in that context. Whoops. Accidentally hit Tholian supply. Let's get rid of Hydrogen supply. Okay. So, but they did disrupt a couple of hexes. I would think that there would probably be in Whiskey 26 a continuation of that disputed hex going down there. But as you can see, if I take away the ships and the bases, there is still a disputed hex zone right here, which is going to be sort of polished off. So we'll have to see how that sort of all works out in the end. There we go. So that's what we got floating around in this area. And of course, we've got the rest of the ISC. Oh my goodness. I'm just noticing in the chat here, Lord Lawless saying, I keep trying to scroll the map and click the stacks to expand them. Yeah, I know, pretty funny. Eh? All right, so there's more than a couple here. a little bits of chat. So, Paul, do you do commissions? Agreed, Tony. I salute veterans everywhere as well. It's a unique brotherhood. Chuck, not a vet, but I don't care where you are from, but nothing as sharp looking as a Marine in full dress. The Marines do have a good uniform. It's there's no doubt. Dell, there appears to be Carnivons in Ream in space. Goodness gracious. I wholeheartedly agree, Charles, says John Tenbroke. Bill, because any ships lost by the Hydrons hurt really bad, they have a harder time replacing them. Fair. In the sense they don't have the ability to build ships. Or not, they have to rebuild those slipways after they lost their capital. I don't know what the current slipway count is on the new Hydron capital. We'll have to see what that looks like. Lord Lawless, I keep trying to scroll the map. Yeah. And Bill says you have to find the race, then find the fleet, and then open it up. Yes. Okay. Back to the map. Let's talk about the ISC real quick. We know that they are, when it comes to EP and of course fleet cap, they are big bad folks in the game. But let's just take a quick look. I'll pull up the ISC echelons because most of the echelons are where all the ships are, or used to be anyway. We'll just leave that there. Okay. So what do we got here? On top of, we got quite a collection. So let's look at this is the Hydron capital. We've got 3rd Fleet, a tug, some commando ships. Let's see what's in 3rd Fleet. So the ISC 3rd Fleet. This is the ships that are securing the home system. It's a YCL and 3 DDs, so nothing too crazy. But around them, they also have a couple DDs taking out this resource. DD taking Iron Web over in the corner. On this planet here, we have a command cruiser, a tug, a destroyer, a light cruiser, and a DD. Not nothing, but I think that Fox Skulk 1 and Iron Fleet could take it if they wanted to. Interesting. Down on this resource, we have, so not looking at the fleets, we have 2 DDs and 2 CLs, and let's look at the fleets. We've got Enforce, Truth, and Law. So Enforcement Fleet is a Dreadnought, a CC, a CA, a total of 7 CLs, and a DD with a prime team. So that is not nothing. But it's not alone. Of course, they've got Truth and Law as well. So Truth Fleet is this one down here, another big stack, another Dreadnought, 2 YCAs, 9 CLs, and 2 DDs. My goodness. And Law Fleet. Law Fleet was a crippled CL. So not too much to worry about that. But so we've got CLs. So from a CL perspective in that hex, we've got 9 plus, so we got 18 CLs. Just the CLs. Just the CLs. Oh my God. 18 of those. Then we've got a number of supporting destroyers. At this point, really more like a handful. And then, of course, 3 CAs, a CC, and 2 dreadnoughts. So it would just be a really tough fight. It would be a really tough fight if Home, Fox, and the supporting Hydron fleets decided to attack that stack. It would just be a really tough fight. Possible to win, but it would be a tough fight. I'm almost tempted to do the math on it now just to see how that would look. But let's look up further up the Golden Rod, if you remember from several live streams ago. If we go further down the shaft, we'll see 2nd Fleet here along with a bunch of supporting ships. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 DDs, 2 CLs, and then, of course, 2nd Fleet. Let's take a look at 2nd Fleet. You know how much I love putting one ship in a fleet box. Boom, ladies and gentlemen, a CL. So this stack is 3 CLs and 6 DDs. So not nothing. But man, can we just put that in the 2nd Fleet box? That would just make things so much easier. We've also got Order Fleet here. Order, which is a CL, a CA, a CL, light and heavy cruiser respectively, and a stack of 5 DDs. That's Order Fleet there. And then, of course, we've got a YDK Cerberus Fleet. Oh, interesting. Okay, and a tug. So let's take a quick look. That's all that's sort of in this area. So that is a lot to look at. what is the quick assessment here? It looks like the Carnivons and the Hydrons are organizing a coordinated counterattack. The ISC seem to be fighting that fight on their own. And to be fair, they can, because they've got the ships and they've got the firepower. But it's looking like a far more equal fight in the next 2 turns, in the sense of between next turn, or turn 69 and turn 70, those 2 turns will be likely a very equal fight. So we'll see what that looks like. Yeah, that's as far as the ISC and the combined Hydron Carnivon forces around the Hydron homeworld and in that area of operations, that looks very balanced, or much more so than it has been in the past. That being said, again, don't discount anybody, because there's some crazy stuff that's going on. However, Cerberus Fleet was there. So let's take a quick look at Cerberus Fleet. Oh, Christ. Well, this doesn't change anything, does it? Of course not. Yes, former Hydron capital, Lord Lawless. Yes. Okay, so everything I said is true, and then we add in Cerberus Fleet. Cerberus Fleet has, I believe, the only Riemann dreadnought, which is the KC-4. It has a command cruiser. It has, it looks like four D4s. My goodness. And then we have a bunch of F4s. So we have 8, looks like 8 F4s, 1 crippled F4, so total of 9, and then 6 frigates. So this isn't a small fleet either. And of course, with the dreadnought and the 5 cruisers, yeah. If Cerberus Fleet were to get involved in this tussle, it's going to tip the balance in the favor of the ISC Riemann. But it is still close. And depending on the ability of the Carnivons and the Hydrons to be able to build ships and get them to the front, and how quickly they can do that relative to the ISC, there may be an advantage for the Hydrons and the Carnivon to push that combat, because the ISC homeworld is all the way up here. And it just takes longer for them to get ships to the front. The ISC, the Hydrons and the Carnivon, obviously right there, and they can get stuff up front fast. So that's interesting. But speaking of the Riemanns, let's look on the this side of the map and check out what they're doing. So again, this random little frigate here, just sitting on that resource, nice and pretty, keeping things like this YDD away from it. We have interesting. Oh. So when I looked at this hex, I thought that this was a Riemann ship commingling with a bunch of Tholian ships. But it looks like I'm wrong. It looks like that KE2 on November 26 on top of that wormhole, it's got the label captured on it. So I'm assuming, based on the fact that it's coexisting in a hex with Tholian ships, that it's captured by the Tholians. DM, can I get a ruling, please? Can I get a confirmation from the GM on what is going on there? I believe that's a Tholian-owned, captured Riemann ship. Exciting. Okay. If that's the case, I feel like I want to pop over to the Tholians here in a second. But let's round out what's going on here. So we've got the two fleets on top of this supply node, which is the planet that the Riemanns own. So Atlantis and Columbia. Let's look up these fleets real quick. Columbia. Oh my God. And Atlantia. Sorry, Atlantia and Columbia. All right. Oh, and then of course I'm going to pull up Pegasus just because it's in the neighborhood as well. Where are you? Pegasus. Boom. Okay. So this is the Trifecta Fleets. The two on top of each other in the same hex, and then Pegasus to the right here. So these two fleets, good God. What do we got? We got 3 cruisers and 14 destroyers. Jesus. 7 frigates and then 2 crippled frigates. Plus another 3 frigates. So that was, what was that? That was 15, right? 15. Yeah, so 15 frigates, 18 frigates, a total of sorry, let me try that again. 18 destroyers, 9 frigates with 2 crippled frigates, 4 cruisers, and 2 prime teams in that hex. More than enough to be able to reach out and destroy anything the Tholians have in that area. I don't even need to look at the Tholian map. I just know, based on their total compot of the entire fleet that they have, that fleet will be enough to go through that wormhole if it wants to and destroy anything on the other side. But if we look at Pegasus, there's an extra 3 destroyers and 3 frigates, which takes that number to 20 plus destroyers, over 10 frigates, and then a collection of cruisers to command them. Yeah, I don't see the Tholians presenting strong resistance to that. And when we look at the map here, there are no significant being the key word there, Hydran or Carnival Den fleets that could interfere, oppose, or provide any real resistance. So the Remans seem like they're operating rather unopposed in former Hydran space, and the only opposition that they're facing is the Tholians, and the Tholians do not seem to be competent to the task, shall we say. However, what else we got here? We got a base with 2 tugs and 2 frigates. So I got to ask the question here to the Remans, what are you doing with those tugs? Why don't you send them south and start building some bases down here and do stuff? It seems like those tugs would be great to, A, build a base on top of November 24. Why? To provide you, at the very least, an EW advantage in any combat that you would have. Also, a base on the planet just helps, generally speaking, with stability. Provides you supply. Of course, the planet provides you supply as well, but provides you that sort of redundant ability to be able to provide supply and so on. 2, 3, 4. You can also take the second one, tug that is, and with the massive fleet that you have, park it on the wormhole, build a base in the wormhole, and then prevent the Tholians from ever coming through again. It also gets you further down here to be able to cause more chaos and rampage like oh my God, I'm just listening to the Norman conquest of England on the British History podcast. The Duke of Normandy. I don't know why I'm forgetting this name, but regardless, the Norman invasion rampaging across southern English lands. You could do the same thing, only in Hydran space, and take up all these resources. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You could, with supply, if you had a base and supply there, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You got an extra 5 EP that you could start collecting, assuming you can take them and hold them. That's just simple ROI in my opinion. But what do I know? I'm no Reman. I'm a Klingon. What else we got here? Of course, there's always the thing about competing demands because there's a lot going on here. We have a tug and a couple of escort frigates and a YBS here in ISC space in close proximity to this wormhole here, where the ISC, I previously said the Remans, but the ISC had jumped through and caused havoc and let slip the Juggs of War. Let's look at Solar and Pacific Fleet. Maybe there's some more exciting stuff coming down, and the Remans are just biding their time. After all, the Remans are in no rush. They're so dominant on the field, so to speak. They have no reason to rush other than Pacific. Where are you? Pacifica. Oh my goodness. I did Pacific before, and Solar is one that I'm looking for. Thank you very much. Solaria. All right. So I'll put Solaria on the bottom. Yeah, I'll put Solaria on the bottom and Pacifica on top. And basically what we're looking at, this looks like build cycles to me. You can see they have a cruiser slipway with 3 destroyers and 3 frigates, and that's what they've built here. And then the next turn is 3 destroyers and 3 frigates, and that's what's coming down the pipe. So that's what it looks like on my end as far as what I'm seeing coming down. And then we've got Acropolis. I'm assuming Acropolis. What's the Acropolis fleet? Again, another build cycle of a cruiser and 3 and 3 from destroyers and frigates respectively. So we can see this build cycle of stuff heading down the way. The advantage of having all those bases is that you can strat move them, and strat movement allows you to go 1.5, depending on your level of tech. I think everyone's around a 1.5 distance. So at a 4 hex movement, you can move them 6. It would seem that, hold on, I'm going to get rid of that notification. It would seem that, let's see, who's, Epic Games. Normally I close that out and get rid of that. I apologize. Oh, goodness. My merge button just fell apart on me here, as we can see. I might, I'll have to fix that later. Right, so where are we? Strategic movement, 1.5 distance, basically allows you to move 6 instead of 4. Maybe they're already doing that now because, of course, they have supply and bases along the network. You tell me, Dell, what's going on when it comes to the Riemann Reach as we go down. But let's look up in sort of the backyard of your space. We've got the exploration survey cruiser going to the edge of known space, both on the north and sort of the northeast here, which is great. We can see the diplomacy is continuing on this this particular colony, trying to make them happy again. We've got a collection of W-era cruisers floating around, and of course, an exploration cruiser, which I'm assuming is making its way towards this area here after finishing off the neutral zone along the border with the ISC. New Fleet and Prometheus Fleet, no reason to think that they've changed it at all along the border with the Lyrans. And of course, we have base completion and exploration occurring with small exploration freighters along this area here. So all in all, things on the Riemann side are looking good. I'm going to switch myself over here and at the same time take a moment to dropping things. Here we go. I need to get myself a Stream Deck. I don't have a Stream Deck. I have what's called X Keys, which does the same thing, just doesn't look as pretty. I'll have to fix that later. Okay. Let's go back into the chat real quick. Boom, boom, boom. What do we got? Oh. Hey, what's this? Okay, William. Right. So this message is held for review, it says. I will show. So this... Yeah. William the Bastard was the name that was given to the Duke of Normandy, who Duke William of Normandy, who invaded England in, what was it, 1063, something like that. But either way, that's who that is. And the Battle of Hastings with Harold. Was it Harold? Not Harold. Goodness gracious! Like I said, more coffee, please. Let's get back into the chat. All right, so. We've got Battle of Hastings in 1066. There we are. William and Harold. Harold died. Arrow to the head, if that's what happened. Chuck says, but what was the battle before Hastings? There was a battle between the another. Oh my God. There was a Danish king who came over and took over York, and there was a battle up at something bridge in the north part of England. And Harold had gone up to deal with him, and they won that battle, and then they went down to deal with William once William invaded. It was serendipity that it happened the way it did. Chuck says, but what was the battle before Hastings? Yeah, I can't remember. Hey, Hoodwinked. Is Hoodwinked here? If Hoodwinked is here, please present in the chat so I can throw praise at you. Look up Stamford Bridge. That's right. Stamford Bridge was the battle. There's some sort of one-man Viking. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but the king of the Danes who was there, he was standing on the bridge with his battle axe, full berserker mode, trying to take on all the English soldiers. And he tried to hold the bridge because his army was in York, basically too far away from the bridge when they got caught effectively with their pants down, and they were running to try and join their king, but they didn't get there in time. John, Harold Hardrada, King of Norway. Thank you. If I remember correctly, lost the battle to Harold Godwinson. That's right. Anglo-Saxon king. Thank you. I just need the reminder here. So the Godwinsons, Harold Godwinson, and it was actually Harold Godwinson's brother, who had gotten Harold Hardrada, the King of Norway, into that fight. He was at that battle, and I want to say his name started with a T, but either way, the brother died, and it was just ridiculous. Chuck. Yep, Brits surprised the Vikings. One naked Viking held off the Brits for about 2 hours, letting his fellows get ready. They stopped at Essex when their men, Kevin the Yob, did they meet Kevin? And Kevin's just that dangerous? I don't know. Exciting and delighting. Okay, we are $1.20 into this live stream. Let's dive into the other part of the map, and we're going to talk about the Lyrans. Their exciting monster, what's going on with the Feds, the Tholians, and we'll round it out with the Gorn and the Roms. Here we go. All right, so we've got the big story that was in the thumbnail was the monster in the north of Lyran space. So what's always exciting about the map and the counters that we use, so the monster counter has nothing, not really, a lot to do with what the monster actually is. We don't know that it's an amoeba / single-celled organism floating through space. It's just a monster counter. You as the player need to go to that hex and discover or figure out what kind of monster it is. What kind of capabilities it has. Does it have, is it highly... for example, there are some monsters that have weapons or offensive capabilities that hit the entire fleet at the same time, concurrent attacks, or targeted attacks like a Mauler. And some of them regenerate. Some of them have the ability, if they win a fight, to be able to multiply or grow in power, potency, attack factors, and so on. So there's a number of different monsters that can do these different kinds of things. What kind of monster is this? Ooh, we're going to have to let the Lyrans figure that out as they send ships to go discover what that monster is. Luckily for them, they've got a cruiser and a light cruiser in the area, so they can send something over and figure out what's going on. They also have White Stripe Fleet within quick response area. So let's take a look at Lyran White Stripe Fleet. Anytime you're ready. White Stripe. There we are. White Stripe Fleet. Boom. White Stripe Fleet is a collection, we'll put it over my head here, is a collection of 4 destroyers and 2 frigates. So between the light cruiser, the heavy cruiser, the 4 destroyers, and the frigate, that should be at least enough to be able to cripple, stop, or hopefully destroy this monster. Other than that, in their space, what do we got? Oh, what is this? I see a commercial convoy in the space between the Feds and the Lyrans, and a Lyran CA in Federation space. What is going on, Chuck? Are you getting friendly with the Feds, or is something else happening? Very interested to figure out what qu'est-ce qui arrive ici, what's going on your border with the Federation. Why? Because, of course, the Federation being your neighbor, and it seems as though your biggest exploration or push is the exploration towards the center of the map. Now, we can see, speaking of, I will scroll over ever so slightly so my head's not completely in the way. We've got a new resource found here. Tug looks to have completed its base construction, and of course we have what we got. We got 2 small survey freighters and a exploration cruiser polishing off the neutral zone, and then I would imagine heading towards the center here. So interesting combination of what's going on exploration-wise. And of course, like I say, just interesting stuff that's going along here with this YCA. Chuck, do tell, what is going on with the Federation? So I feel like there's not much to say when it comes to the Lyran map. You tell me, Chuck, is there something you want me to highlight? Because I can't see much, even if I look at your home fleet. Yeah, I mean, it's not small by any means. We've got 3 YCCs, couple WCAs, 2 YCLs, 6 YDDs, and 2 frigates. Again, you don't have the biggest fleet on the map, obviously, but for what you have, you've got good concentrations of ships where you need them. Yeah, I don't really see. The biggest thing is the push for exploration, which is what you're doing, and of course that monster that's shown up in the top of your map. But is there anything you want to highlight? You let me know. Been friendly with them for years, he says to the feds. Okay, well, the Federation are friendly. Let's dive into our friendly boys in blue. We've got Second Fleet sitting over this wormhole that leads to the ISC neck of the world. The feds in Second Fleet still have, I believe, now 3. I thought it was 2, but now 3 cruisers and 5 frigates. So more than enough to be able to stop anything coming through. And of course, the tug is there, which I'm assuming will build a base once they get their finances in order. To be fair, they are recovering from the recent conquest of, what was the name of this planet here? Gaton. You can see the USS Midway sitting there with a prime team over top, probably going to build a base very shortly. Couple crippled frigates surrounding the area, maybe moving to YBSs for repair. Come on now, play nice. There we are. 2 crippled frigates on top of this YBS, and then of course we've got home fleet over this YDK. Let's see, the Fed home fleet is. So we got, oh my goodness, look at all these name ships. So we got a couple of YCAs, 2 YCCs, commando ship, and a total of 5 destroyers that are crippled, and they'll complete repairs there. As we can see, the feds are continuing to use their cruiser plus prime team combo to continue their exploration, getting quite concentrated as they get into the wedge, as they work towards the center of the map. We've also got Wells Fargo. Is that the theater tug Wells Fargo? That's interesting. Okay, so the YFT theater tug, theater transport, I should say, sorry. Wells Fargo, very nice. And the Diplomat making things friendly over here on the Kazinti planet, a minor planet. Now we know that the Federation have not had the best of luck when it comes to all things diplomacy. So if they start getting a little bit of horseshoe action here, that would be excellent for them, because of course they really grounded out with this colony, this former Carnival colony there. So yeah, I mean, they're at 45.5 if memory serves. If they get that 3 EP planet, then from a diplomatic conversion, that'll be really good. They'll be in the top tier of economies very, very quickly. We take a look at the fleet, 7th Fleet. 7th Fleet continues to be 2. Come on now. 2. Anytime you're ready. There we are. 2 cruisers and a total of 5 frigates. Basically preventing, as a doorstop or a cork, anything coming through that wormhole. Understandably, makes sense. Totally get it. So they're preventing any transit through that wormhole. And of course, again, more of these cruisers and prime teams doing what they do, getting through the other side. So this is looking good. Federation looking sharp, looking good. Things are going well. Quick sip of water. All right. Like the color of the Borak fleets. Yes, I call the Borak the Batman faction because they got the red and black, and their ships look like Batwings. So it very much looks like an inverted Batman logo, depending on your iteration of Batman, but essentially an inverted Batman logo on the map. If we look, speaking of, let me just slide this over so it's a little bit easier to see. You can see Green Dragon here on the far west of Tholian space. They are the Borak. Not much has changed with them, but we do know that that is a medium planet, and they hate the Tholians. So they are at war with the Tholians. But of course, they won't reach out beyond their borders, most likely. I mean, I'm guessing there, but most times minor factions don't reach out beyond their borders and attack player characters. But the GM can always change that. It's up to them. Let's take a look at what's going on here. We've got large exploration freighter with a crippled YPC. I wonder what happened there. Was that a random event, or did something come out and go bump in the night? We've got, of course, this other large exploration freighter completing exploration towards the center, and then this guy here doing the same thing to the south. I'll be very interested to see what happens with the Tholians and how they do or don't respect the free transit zone, whether they'll consider that a free transit zone for them as well, and what they'll do with regards to this neutral zone, whether it'll be extended up or not. Very interested to see. But those 3 large exploration freighters are what the Tholians are using to drive their exploration. We can see the Whiskey wormhole. Just as a reminder, the Whiskey and November wormhole. Whiskey here, November here. Of course, you can see that on the map. And as we slide it over, November here and Whiskey up here. So really the positioning sort of maps to what you see here. November is the bottom one, Whiskey's the top one, same thing on the other side of the map. Whiskey is the one the ISC went through. November is the one that the Remans could go through. What's particularly of note, if we look at the November wormhole and the Tholian, what was it, 3rd Fleet, I think? 3rd Fleet, yeah. Tholian 3rd Fleet. They've got quite a bit there. They've got 4 cruisers, 3 destroyers, 9 frigates, which form their YPCs, and then a crippled YPC. And of course, they've got a full tug and a YDK. So what are we going to do there? What are the Remans going to do on their side of the November wormhole? Are they going to reach out and pound down the Tholian ships that are on the other side of that wormhole, or are they going to do something else? Interesting, because they do have a captured Reman ship, so it'll be very sort of interesting to see how that kind of dances out. Of course, the Whiskey wormhole was the victim of ISC aggression as they reached through the wormhole and blew up the base under construction. They've seemed, the Tholians that is, seem confident enough to be able to put their CPCs back on task to potentially start building another base. We can see that they've completed their YBSs here. When and if they start building a YDK, we will have to see. But we do know the Tholians don't have a lot of ships, so I mean, there's not much going on there. We do see that the okay, so well, they're not converted yet, but it looks like it's probably going to happen sometime soon. The Kzinti are happy plus, which means that the diplomatic rules are just waiting to come through, and when they do, that's another 4 EP. God, another 4 EP for the Tholians, which will put them to 53.5, which will push them to a whole nother milestone when it comes to economy. Grr, he says. And of course, we've got a Gorn commercial convoy heading up towards their interesting. Oh, it's because it's too far. So they're heading to the homeworld because in order for commercial convoy in this game to be able to be effective, it has to be 4 hexes away minimum from point to point. You can create a commercial convoy at your homeworld, certainly, any planet and or YDK. Now, they have to be 4 hexes away from their the point that they go to. So in this case, this would be another YDK. And mobile base here in Gorn space is a YDK, but they're only 3 hexes away. So that's why that commercial convoy is heading all the way north to their homeworld. For future reference, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This YDK that'll be completed in India 31 is just 1 hex closer. So that might be an easier thing to do next time. But let's go into the Gorn and see what's going on. So big thing from the Gorn is they've discovered their Paravian friends. If you know the backstory of the minor factions or the early years when it comes to the Gorn and the Paravians, essentially what we're talking about is dinosaurs and feathered dinosaurs. We've got the Gorn, the dinosaurs, the scaly versions that you've seen from most recently Star Trek New Worlds, which is a very interesting interpretation of the Gorn, much more akin to sort of, I think, the FASA interpretation of what Gorn look like, versus the, of course, the classic TOS, Kirk versus the Gorn captain on that desert planet. I mean, special effects were what they were back then, so, I mean, you're restricted by what you're playing with at the time, but I like the idea of the Gorn being a more sort of non sort of human looking reptile thing. I like the interpretation of the being much more sort of dinosaur-ish, quick to move, vicious. I like that idea. But how are they going to deal with the Paravians, who are essentially feathered dinosaurs? Paravians are the bird brains of the map. They are big bird incarnate. And of course, Airy Fleet is sitting there on top of a medium planet, which is at the moment indifferent, a YDK, a YPGB. And let's look at the Paravian Airy Fleet just so we know what's... Ooh, let's slide that over so we can better see. So you can see they've got a DN, a CA, a CL, 2 destroyers, and a total of 7 frigates. Now, generally speaking, not a big deal, except that with the size of the Gorn fleet, that will be a significant issue if they want to militarily take them. But of course, from a diplomatic perspective, and the fact that it is a medium planet, there's a lot of incentive to, and they're starting off as indifferent, there's a lot of incentive to get a diplomacy team there and do the diplomatic route, because to conquer it, sure, that's great, but the economic advantage of converting them, assuming you can do it relatively quickly, converting them and getting that full 4 EP a turn ASAP, that has a very compound effect over a very short period of time, so it'll be good. Another thing I'm noting here is this derelict. So I've never come across a derelict in my game, so I can't speak to how this mechanic works. Perhaps our GM can pipe in with a little commentary as to what derelicts are, what they can do, and what the benefit can be, or bad things that may happen. Looks like it is a size class 3 derelict, so like an old ancient warship, perhaps. But size class 3, meaning it's around the size of a cruiser. So that's interesting to see. Again, we've got the wormholes, 3 of them in Gorn space. 4th fleet looks to be... Oh, interesting. Let's take a look at Gorn. Where are you, Gorn? Come back to me, baby. Come to me. Gorn, 4th fleet. Okay, so we have command, cruiser, 2 DDs, and an FF. Nothing too crazy. We've got that plus an RD team continuing their research there. We know that the fleet went through on the other side. I'll go to that in a moment. And then we've got mobile fleet up here. Gorn, I think they're in the named echelons. Yeah. So the named echelons here. Mobile fleet's at the very top. We've got the W era battleship. It's the WBI. It's a 2 attack, 6 defense ship. And then we've got a whole bunch of other W era ships. So this is a non-threatening military force, but certainly something to be able to provide a little bit of flack should anything come to attack this YDK. The big baddies are in Vengeance Fleet, which are over here working with the exploration ship. Now, it's interesting to note that the exploration ship has its own prime team, and then Vengeance Fleet has a DN and a prime team. In my best practice advice to the Gorn player, split those up. The DN with a prime team is quite effective at exploration, so have it move in a separate hex than the YCR. The YCRs operate on their own. The DN with support fleet works on its own. But the DN with a prime team is basically as effective as the YCR without a prime team. So I would recommend doing that and exploring that way. We can see the diplomacy is still going on down on this developing planet, which is currently indifferent. I would recommend, based on the way Airy Fleet is, move that diplomat ASAP over to Airy Fleet and start working that action, because the financial benefit of having that be in your empire is a better ROI than this being better than indifferent. Yeah. That would be my recommendation. Other than that, get a tug down here and build a base on that, and that'll help next time when you're trying to do the diplomacy on this planet. But as I said, there is also a interesting. Let me move my head to the other side real quick, and we can see as I slide this over ever so slightly. You can see right here is Strike Fleet. Now, Strike Fleet is came through that wormhole, which we'll go back and I'll show you in a second, and it's taken this resource. Now, 2 things about this. 1, because of where Strike Fleet is, they're completely out of supply. They can pull, potentially, if they have the technology, they can pull supply through the wormhole, but if they don't have it, then they kind of need to get a planet or something on the other side. Now, resources don't in themselves, they're not a supply point, and they don't offer supply. Now, there was a discussion just before I went live about whether the GM is allowing you to sort of raid and pillage, because you can do that. You can financially interrupt financial transactions or resources and get EP for that. So if you can do that, then is it reasonable that you could do that and get supply from a resource? My argument is no, because it's like you're essentially getting raw iron ore that's not processed, whereas in order to provide supply, you need processed goods. Processed goods being turning grain into flour, turning ore into usable metal products, whatever the case may be. Grapes into wine, pick your poison. So as the case may be, that would be my argument. But just before going live here, I believe there had been a discussion around this, and so we just need to sort that out. But assuming that they do not have supply from that resource, then they're out of supply, which makes things just more challenging for them. But they've got this wormhole, and if they can pull supply through the wormhole, then they just need to go back on top of that wormhole, get supply, and then try and explore this hex. The challenge being that you can't feasibly explore a hex if you're not in supply. That's the challenge. So we'll have to see how that goes. Let's slide back over, and I'll move my head again. We'll look at the Romulans. I'm not sure if you can hear it on the live stream. I have my neighbor doing some woodworking, and it's extremely loud. You might hear a buzzing sound in the background, and unfortunately, there's nothing I can do about that. He's doing woodworking. It's that time of year. What can I say? People are in their garage enjoying the sun. Although when you're in the garage, are you enjoying sun? But either way, doing woodworking, having fun. Let's wrap this up with the Romulans. We can see the mass of exploration going on the top of their territory as they push between the 11th and the 20th Legions, moving into this unexplored space. Let's pull the ships away, and you can see the distribution of bases that are supporting their supply. Assuming they still have 3 supply, not 4, although, to be fair, it feels like they could have 4. You can see that that's the reach that they have. So we scroll down here. We've got the 14th Legion along the border. 2nd still holding firm as we... There we go. We got 3 WBs and a command cruiser, which is the Klingon... Or sorry, I'm being distracted by how loud that buzzing noise is. 3 warbirds, 1 kingbird, the kingbird being the command cruiser. As we go down here, we can see the YSN, a couple of legions on the corner rounding around this constellation, you might say, of wormholes and gravity wells. Very interesting to see, but continuing to push the exploration. And then, of course, in the south, we've got they continue to push the exploration. Let's pull away the ships. You can see these 2 bases, 1, 2, 3. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this could be providing extended supply, especially with the convoy, which would make sense if it's a 3 supply tech. That's what that's looking like right now. So, with that said, we have rounded out the map. Let's take a look. What do we got? F-38 counter, F-38 counter, F-38 counter. What is the Foxtrot 38 counter that of which you speak? Is that the derelict? Yeah, that's the derelict. Okay, so let's go into the chat and see what's going on. Okay, Chuck says, been friendly with them for years as we were picking up on the chitter-chatter between the Lyrans and the Federation. I like the color of the Borak fleets. Yes, yes. Eugene, could the Fed send a commercial convoy to that planet to help smooth the way for incorporating the Fed? Short answer is yes. There is, I don't know, a commercial convoy would be the best approach, but you can certainly send EP to a non-player faction to be able to sort of impact the diplomatic role on any particular turn. We have a table that sort of translates the amount of EP to a bonus or a number that helps with that role. And so the short answer is yes, you can send money, and money always greases the palms. Or I suppose the tentacle, the wing, whatever your limb of choice may be. And yes, so send them EP directly. Lord Lawless, oh boy, here comes the anti-silicate prejudice. Stay strong, Tholian brothers. Yes, definitely. I have a prejudice against the Tholian faction, primarily because of the player involved. I know how dangerous they can be. I know how good they are at this game. And the Tholians have, while they are sort of offensively impaired, defensively they have some capabilities that will make them incredibly deadly as we get into the later portions of the game. The time to take them is now. Take them now. That's what I'm saying to everybody. You know, let's get in there and do damage and get this done. Time is of the essence, my friends. Let's seize take up arms against the Sea of Troubles, and by opposing, end the Tholians. So in this case, it would be take up arms against the Sea of Silicate, and by oppose them, melt them to glass. Break them into shards, and scatter them upon the stars, because they will be nothing but dust. Dust to form the, dust to be lost in the vastness of space. That's, oh my goodness, here I'm getting quite flowery in my language. Okay, Daniel, typically derelicts can be scrapped to generate EP or research. Ooh, very exciting. I like that idea. And then I am moving a tug to build a base there. Build a base there, being the planet that I was talking about before on the Gorn side. You can see the bottom right or bottom left here. Whoops. This diplomacy right here. So yeah, or this diplomat right here. Yep, I think moving a tug down there is great idea. And then of course we can, I would recommend moving that diplomat over and seeing how that goes. But back on the attack. Okay, dust in the solar wind, dude. There you go. See, dust in the solar wind. To be blown and scattered amongst the galaxy, lost to the ages and timeliness of time. Timelessness of time. Ladies and gentlemen, Wayne Dan is our latest subscriber. I don't know why or how I missed the notification, but Wayne Dan is our latest subscriber. That puts our subscriber count. I can't see it right now. Maybe I can check it on my phone. But we're getting inches closer to being able to get to our goal of 500 subscribers being the magic number that unlocks the community tab on YouTube. Yes, we are at 247 according to my app on the phone. Three-way from being halfway there to get to the magic number of 500. Wayne, yes, welcome Wayne to our community of folks here on the channel, and of course, if you like what you see, then please join us next week at 11 o'clock live here to be able to catch the latest and greatest on what's going on in the campaign. Very exciting. Just as a recap, what are we seeing in the world? We're seeing that. Or what are we seeing in the galaxy? We are seeing that the Carnivons and the Hydrons are positioning themselves for what looks like a credible counterattack to the ISC incursion into their space and conquering of their homeworld. The ISC, to be fair, look like they're pretty well dug in, and it'll be a very equal fight depending on whether and or if the Remans get involved. Regardless, it could be a really consequential stand-up fight between these two factions as we see the needle move in one direction or another. One of the challenges up to this point has been having those pivotal combats or pivotal moments to be able to tie the Hydrons down and really sort of eliminate the ships that they have. The Hydrons have done a good job of sort of scattering and preserving their fleet. The question is, will we be able to nail them down in a consequential moment of crisis as they are able to cause enough damage to the ISC to impair their ability to further progress, or will that basically devastate what's remaining of the fragile Hydron Navy and their impact on the game? The Carnivon, of course, being their supporters, are right there with them, and between the two of them, they have an incredibly potent fleet in that area. We'll have to see what happens in turn 70. Of course, the Remans. What's going on, man? We need to be able to push through and cause some some real damage to those Tholians. The Tholians are good, of course, at defense, but you can take control of that wormhole on your side of it and build a base, build a YDK, and make it so that there's no way those Tholians are coming through and coming into your sector of space. Of course, you've got as many as 5 EP that you can pick up if you build that base, build a base on that wormhole and further expand from there. So very exciting to see how that's all going to roll out in the next little while. The Lyrans continuing to expand and explore, and what are they going to do with that monster? The Federation quietly and diplomatically building their economy over the past number of turns. They have gone from being in the lower tier to now the mid, and if they get that medium planet, they will be very much knocking on the door of being the top dog economically in this game. Speaking of top dogs, the Tholians so close to being able to be, again, top spot, and by a relatively significant margin. 53.5 will put them several EP ahead of everybody else and really sort of make the difference. The Gorn continue to explore and expand. What are they going to do with those Praevians? And tell us what's going on with that derelict. And of course, the Romulans arguably have the most potential to be able to grow economically in this game. For whatever reason, the dice just haven't been rolling their way, since I know our GM actually rolls them dice. Yeah, but they are expanding. They are growing. The question is, what are they going to strategically want to do next in this particular game? So there, Wayne commenting, hello, everybody. There we go. That coffee looks really weak. Yeah, that's just water. We need, like I say, we need that coffee sponsorship. We need whatever that company might be. I have a couple in mind. But if you have a coffee company that you have connections with that you think should sponsor us just for fun, then please. Free coffee is always a good thing. Yeah, just trying to wet the whistle, keep myself lubricated here. And away we go. So, hello, Dell says, hey, we are a peace-loving race. Honest, governor. Yes, of course. Don't forget to explore that stable warp signature Eugene throws in there. Of course, yes, that stable warp signature that no one seems to be taking the time to check out. Maybe, depending on everyone's financial situation, maybe that's something the Remans and or the Hydrons can pay the Orions to check out with their WDR. Maybe. But yes, that warp signature is certainly sort of like an itch that you want to scratch, isn't it? No one's figured out what they want to do with that yet. We'll have to see how that goes. All right. Well, everybody, thank you so much for joining us today on the show. If you haven't already considered them, please be like Wayne and join us as a subscriber on the channel, helping to get us towards that magic number of 500. If you also enjoy all things caffeination and you are looking for a way to potentially support us and help us continue to grow, give Paul those tools to get those better CGI animations, then please consider the QR code and or that coffee link, ko-fi.com/New Worlds, to be able to find a tier and support us there. Of course, you can also do that over at Patreon if that's more your speed. You can check that out. That is in the description below. With that said, thank you so much, everybody. I am looking forward to seeing you next week. Bye for now.